Hi everyone. Prevent brain drain. Well, this brain drain is not about educated people of our country leaving the country and settling abroad for better opportunities. This brain drain is the energy drain that we face every day. Our brain's energy gets drained when we carry out a lot of mental activities as part of our daily professional actions which we take, and at some point we get stuck, we become choked, we are not able to think even if we try hard. What is the reason for this and how to overcome that? Some ways to overcome that is what we are going to discuss in this video. Now, the concepts which we will be discussing in this video are based on Dr. David Rock, who is the founder and CEO of Neuro Leadership Institute. It is these concepts are based on his work. So let's consider a typical work day. You may be a working professional or you may be an entrepreneur. So you wake up in the morning, a lot of important things are lined up. So you start thinking about a discussion that you are going to have with the stakeholders, an important project, about that project, and you may start thinking about that project while you take bath or when you have breakfast, or if you're going to office and working there, while you commute you start thinking about it, and you try to remember few things. When you are on the move, you get some ideas, you try and remember those ideas, and moment you get your workplace or when you start work from home, when you open your laptop, there are hundreds of mail that greet you, and a wave of anxiety uh, takes over you, and then you start responding to the mails. You think through, you use your mental activity again to respond to those mails. In the next half an hour you realize you have been able to respond only a few mails, and then suddenly you are reminded of a proposal which you started working the previous day. You had given an outline for that, and then you try and revisit that document after stopping this. When you revisit the document and when you try to close, you accidentally delete that file permanently. A wave of anxiety takes over you, and then again you start focusing on the discussion about the project. Meanwhile, a thought comes up about you not being able to stick to your workout schedule which you had committed to at the beginning of the year. So you inhibit that thought, you push that thought aside, and then when you start working on the project discussion that is coming up, you get a phone call from another stakeholder who is asking for a particular data. You recall and then give that data, and by the time you go for the discussion on that important project, you have already faced that brain drain. The energy of the brain is drained, and you are really not able to think through, you are not able to strategize, you are not able to come up with any innovative ideas. Well, you are not alone. Many of us face these kind of issues when we carry out our day-to-day activities. Now, based on the concept shared by David Rock, let's first try and understand what is the reason for this. If you look at our brain, the mental activities which I am talking about, when we say mental activities, it could be planning, it could be problem solving, it could be communicating, it could be thinking, innovating, all those things. When we use our mental energy, we are using a portion of the brain called as the prefrontal cortex. Well, let's not get too much technical about it, but this is just a broad overview. If you see the visual, there is an indication of the portion of the prefrontal cortex. In the human evolution, this portion of the brain evolved at a much later stage. So this portion of the brain occupies about 5 to 7% of our brain, and we use this for various mental activities, as I mentioned, like planning and so on and so forth. Now, what are the various functions we carry out using this portion of the brain? When we say mental activity, one is understanding. First one is understanding. We receive some data from outside, we place it in this prefrontal cortex, and then we compare it with the information that we already have inside our brain, and then we try and make connections with whatever information we have received. The next one is deciding. We hold two or three information simultaneously. We try and do a cost benefit. We do the comparison, and then we come to a conclusion as to which option would be the most suitable. The next one is recalling. As I was giving that example, somebody asked you for a detail, you were remembering. Or sometimes when we face such situations, you try and recollect what you read in that book about time management, or what you underwent in a training about time management. You're trying to recall that. Recent memories can be easily recalled, but if it is a memory which you have for a longer time, which you have not retrieved for a longer time, the energy that is consumed is again higher. And the next one is memorizing. As I was giving in the example, when you're commuting for work or when you are having your breakfast, you're trying to remember those ideas, right? So whenever that you're trying to memorize something new, it again consumes energy. And the fifth one is inhibiting. Inhibiting is pushing some thoughts which are not required at that particular point in time. Now all these things are done by the prefrontal cortex, and interestingly, this portion of the brain consumes metabolic fuel like blood, from blood and oxygen, much faster than automatic functions like heart beating or your lungs breathing. As a result, when this energy source gets drained fast, we get choked. However, there is another portion of the brain which we use for carrying out regular activities or tasks which we do regularly. When we start doing some tasks few times, it goes to a portion called basal ganglia, and basal ganglia takes over. It gets hardwired, and we don't require that much of energy to carry out repetitive activities. Whereas when we carry out these mental activities like what I mentioned just now, which is also on the visual for you to see, when we do these activities, the energy gets drained fast. One of the ways, a short term thing, is if you have some glucose or some toffee. That's how when you attend some trainings or when you are in post lunch session, because your digestive system is drawing more blood and the energy source for thinking is lesser, you take toffees to make yourselves more energetic, or you have a cup of tea with some glucose, as in sugar in it, so that you can again gain that energy. However, that is not a long term strategy. So how to overcome this? What are some of the steps which we can take to overcome this challenge of the energy not getting drained faster, or conserving that energy? Avoid thinking about too many things when you are not directly involved in your official or professional work. For example, don't try and think when you're having breakfast or taking bath or when you're commuting. Instead, when you reach your workplace, save that mental energy. If you see the first visual, the first oval on top, it says saving mental energy for prioritizing. Prioritizing requires a good amount of energy. That is a good energy drawing mental activity. So save energy for that. That is one way by which we can utilize the energy properly. Second thing is scheduling important tasks when your mind is fresh. So when you once you prioritize, carry out those high priority tasks when your mind is fresh. Third one is when you are prioritizing or when you are carrying out some complex tasks, do not retain the information in the brain. That means you are draining the energy. That is you're increasing the demand of the prefrontal cortex. So put them out in the form of visuals. You can use a whiteboard. Don't write down vertically. Instead of writing, again, writing makes you visualize and again consumes energy. Instead, put as in the form of ovals or squares and write down and see them outside the brain, so that the energy consumed by your prefrontal cortex can be reduced. And once you are clear about your tasks, blocked time for different tasks. That means some tasks which is of low priority you can do when not much of energy is required. So by following some of these techniques, you will be able to reduce the brain drain and you will become more and more effective. Another suggestion I have is you may visit other videos which I have posted earlier. Even though I keep posting different videos, there could be connections between one video and the other. You can, because none of the videos are just standalone, there are always connections between all the videos. All of these videos help us to be more effective in what we do on a day-to-day basis. So I understand how our brain works. When we do repetitive activities, we don't require much of energy, but when we use our mental activity, we require a lot of energy. To avoid that drain of energy, you can follow these techniques which we discussed now and improve your effectiveness. I look forward to meet you in the next video. Till the time, stay safe, follow COVID protocols. Thank you so much.